Hello, everyone, and welcome to IPDay's Webinar Wednesday. We're really so happy that you could join us today for our topic of TABE 11 and 12, a resource update. Today we are joined by Lisa Williams and Jane Silveria from the Department of Education. So we really thank them very much for taking the time to be able to answer some of our questions and go through their PowerPoint. Throughout the webinar, you will have an opportunity to ask questions, and you can do that by using the Q&A section of your screen. Jane and Lisa will be monitoring those questions and answering them as they come along. Also, I want to remind you that you are in listen-only mode, so your attending microphones are muted. So I'm going to let Jane and Lisa get started with the webinar because I know that we're really excited to hear about this update. Jane and Lisa?
Good afternoon. We're trying to make the slide go. Hang on just a second. Technical difficulties.
And Jane, as you're doing that, I just want to remind everyone that the webinar is being recorded and you can look for it within 48 hours on the IPDay website.
Okay. We're having a look. There, we got it. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Lisa and I would like to just fill you in on anything that has changed with TABE 11 and 12 since we started doing trainings a little over a year ago. And the publisher just had a few little tweaks that they did. We had a little tweaks that we had to do here at the state. So we're going to talk to you about those changes and also some future things that will be coming up. So we'll be talking about how you can become a certified TABE administrator since we are no longer doing face-to-face trainings, how you can recertify as an 11-12 administrator if you're already certified on 9-10, available resources that you can use in your program, what's coming up in the future, and we will entertain all questions and answers. So the first thing we know, TABE 9 and 10 is gone. It has expired for all intents and purposes for the state. Any scores after 12/31 of 2018, you may not report to us. If your student tested on 9 and 10 prior to that, you can still use those scores to set them into a new program, or because they were placed into GED prep, or they might have already met their basic skills requirements for CTE.
Okay, as you may or may not know, we have put our certifications and recertifications online. If you were already certified on TABE 9-10, you may use the recertification module that's posted on the IPDay website. If you've never been certified on 9-10 or 11-12, then you will use the how to administer TABE module to get the information that you need and have a better understanding, and also access that certification module there. Both of these, again, are found on the Florida IPDay .org website, and you must register in order to access those modules. Registration is free. And at the end of the completion of those modules, you may print out your certificate of completion. If you should have any complications printing out those certifications, please contact the webmaster via email. So we have several resources that we've placed online for your use, and we hope that you will take some time to access these resources as they will help you to prepare your students for TABE, and also help you as a TABE administrator to identify initial placement and post-testing determinations of learning gains and guidelines. We've received several questions about these two issues, and we've tried our best to put together some charts and some scenarios in those charts to help you to make those initial placements and to determine the learning gains of your students as they progress through the assessment. In addition, we have a listing of frequently asked questions for TABE 11-12. We've been trying to compile those questions as they come in and post them, because we know if one person has that question, there may be several others who have the same question, and we want to make sure that we're giving a unified answer to that question to help everyone. We also have information out there for state data reporting procedures, and if you should have any additional data reporting questions, you will need to contact Tara McLarnon here at the Department of Education. You can access some of the publishers' resources here at the tabetest.com website. There you will find the grid for scale scores, and you will also have information on the online test as technical questions, the blueprints as well, and it will also lay out all of the information that you will need to know about the TABE assessment as far as how the test itself is structured.
Also, if you're for career and technical education, we have developed a matrix out on our website that shows the 11 and 12 scale scores to the grade equivalents from 8th grade through 12th grade. If you need them lower than 8th grade, you would find them under the resources tab on tabetest.com. We also have some learning materials that we've been made aware of. I'm not trying to sell any materials for any of these companies, but people keep calling us every day and wanting to know if there's anything that is specifically related to TABE 11 and 12. And this is the information that we found. You could contact the publisher and talk to them. But remember that any materials that you have that are based on the college and career readiness skills will be relevant to TABE 11 and 12 because it is designed around the college and career readiness skills. If some of you took the training early on, like within the first probably 6 months of this when we were doing trainings, the maximum allowable time changed. It was a little bit longer than it is now. This chart shows you the allowable time as it stands now. What the publisher has told us that as the test is being given, they're finding that it is not taking this much time for the students to finish the test, that they're actually taking a lot less time than is being allowed. The test publisher has also talked about gathering that information and going back to the NRS and maybe changing some of these times as they gather more information on the test. But as for now, these are the allowable times that we are using.
Here we have our scale scores and NRS levels chart, and I would advise you to, once we archive this webinar, to go back and print this sheet if you do not have it currently, because you will have to refer to it as you analyze your student reports and you're looking at how to place your students. Please notice all of the, that you should not have any out of range scores. And if so, you need to, look at the NRS levels, and where you have an NA, that will identify areas where you will not have an out of range scores. But should you have out of range scores, please refer back to those charts I was talking about a few minutes ago for initial placement and determining where to place your students. and I think you'll be okay. Some people are having a little bit of difficulty with this, and please note that there is a little bit of a difference in the scale score numbers between the online test and the written test. So you'll see maybe 3 points off or 3 digits off from what's posted here. But don't be alarmed. It's okay. We can address those individually.
We have a question from Christine that you got several out of range scores and you've notified DRC. Let me explain. If you get an out of range score, you will get no score. It will be represented by an NA. That means that you're going to have to retest that student on the lower test level. TABE 11 and 12 was written so that each level is related to an NRS level. If I was to test a student on L, they could only test into NRS levels 1 and 2. If I tested them on M, they could only test into 2, 3, and 4. What would happen is if they scored too low, you would be given an NA and no score would be provided. If they score on the high range, let's say M reading, you would have a 575 with a plus sign after it. That means that's an acceptable score. You could use the 575, but you could only place them as high as NRS level 4. You could then at that point turn around and retest them on TABE D to see if they could test into NRS level 5. So the only time you will get no score is if the test is too low. If it's too high, it's going to be represented by a plus. If you get a score that's on the low side with a minus sign beside it, that is an acceptable score. Let's say if they were low on M, you would have got a 442 minus. You could place that student in NRS level 2 with that minus score. Just be aware that that student is at the lowest level that they could possibly make and be in that NRS level. The chart here is for online. We have another chart that's coming up that will be show the difference between the two. I think we have that here. If not, we have the link to that one. Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Okay.
Okay, and this is the initial placement procedure I was speaking of earlier. And we've tried to simplify this as much as possible so that it would give you a step-by-step understanding of from the time that you give your student the locator test and determining there if it's out of range or in range and where to place your student. And this is for the initial placement only.
We have another question here that you've had several students score M4. I'm just going to back up here. M4, meaning they scored in NRS level 4 with the M test, and then they TABed D out, meaning they went to D and scored at the highest level. I'm lost here with you, Christine. We'll try to come back and look at that one. They're not level D, but they TABed D out. I'll get back to you on that one, Christine. We'll see what we can do.
They TABed out.
Okay, we'll come back to that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and this is the other chart that we provided for post-testing determination and learning gains. And again, we've tried to simplify this and give you some scenarios as to how to place your student if you have in-range and out-of-range scores.
Okay. Just a few reminders we have for you. Note the time changes. If you took the session early on, notice that the times are shorter. There are no changes to the NRS levels. They're the same as they have been from the very beginning. The locator test must be used for adult education for your initial testing session. After that, you test the student according to how they move up. There are no out-of-range high scores. They come in with a plus. They're usable, but you may retest the student if you want to see if they're going to move up. To keep in mind that if you test them on an M and they've got a plus, and you turn around and test them on a D level, they may test lower than they were on that M. If so, you have to place them according to that score on the D. A student can only test out of range low on levels M, D, and A. They can't test out of range low on E or L. And we only require you to test them twice. So if they scored out of range on M, you turn around and retest them on E, and that would be the end. You would place them according to the chart that Lisa just showed you on the E level. On D, you go to M. Even if they tested out of range low on M, you would place them on that M because we only require you to test twice. And only scale scores that show an NA need to be retested. You do not have to retest a plus or a minus scale score. For students who started the year with D, 9, 10, 9 or higher and are eligible for GED level classes, can you keep them in GED with lower, not NRS 5 or 6? You wouldn't even have to retest them on 11 and 12 if they already tested into 9 or higher on 9, 10. There was no need to retest them on 11 and 12. Okay, Donna? Okay, and our next...
Okay, check the chat box too. You have some questions in the chat.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Let us finish up here.
Yes.
We'll come back to them. My crystal ball, and I do have one in my office. I joke with people all the time on the crystal ball. Post-testing guidelines, I promised those to you probably a year ago. I've submitted them to the publisher for approval, and we're still waiting for that approval. When they are approved, they'll be posted under the Adult Education Assessment Resources webpage. Your link is here. I'd click on that link and I'd save it as my favorite if I was you, because that's where we're putting everything. The other thing I promised was the Interpreting TABE for Teachers module. It is under construction. It will be on IP Day along with all of our other modules. We are hoping, I'm not promising anything, but I'm hoping that it'll be live before I retire. And my retirement date is April of this year. Lisa will be your contact for everything TABE after that time. Right now, you can email either or both of us. We're both responding and making sure that we get all the responses saved up in case they need to be added to the frequently asked questions page. That is the end of our webinar, but we are going to go ahead and answer the rest of these questions. You do have contact information here for Mike Johnson and Christine Kirk, our DRC representatives, and myself and Lisa. You notice this is my work number. I'm not giving y'all my cell number. We have Ann here, and a student has an initial functioning level 4 from 9-10 TABE. They retest TABE 11 and 12, and now they show level 3. Knowing that an EFL can't drop, would the student need to score into level 5 on 11 and 12 to order to gain? Yes, that is correct, Dan. You would keep them in level 4. You wouldn't move them back in level 3 because we can't drop, and they would have to test out a level 4 and go into level 5 to make that gain. Yeah, Christine, I'll talk to you after this is over. I'm here till 4. Gay, will this webinar be available to us? Yes, it'll be archived on IP Day. You can go back and watch it at any time. We went ahead and talked about that in the beginning, but you'll be able to find it on IP Day. Now we need to find the chat box. You're welcome, Gay. Okay, let's get this chat box up here. I don't see the chat box over here. More chat. There it is. Whoops.
Jane, I'll read you this question. If I have a plus on M level, then would you need to retest on level D for the student to test into GED?
I'm sorry, June, one more time.
If you have a plus on M level, then you would need to retest on level D for students to test.
No, you do not need to retest on level D. You could leave that student at NRS level 4 with the M score, provide instruction, and then test later to see if they test up. You don't have to do it immediately. I have several questions here in the chat. When will we get books for our students and ourselves? Angela, can you clarify what kind of books you're talking about? Are you talking test booklets or I'm not sure. From Mariella, please repeat practice with real examples. Okay, and I don't understand. And then if we have a plus on M, would I need to retest on D? Is that what you, okay. Thank you, Linda. If you have a plus on M, you need to retest on D for them to get into GED. That is correct. You cannot place them in on the M. The highest it goes is NRS level 4. If we're talking, Angela, about books, the test booklets you would have to order through Christine Kirk here on this page. She's your representative. If you're talking about study materials, that's something that your program would have to order. That's not something that we would order. Is it possible that FDOE could ask DRC to give us a more detailed score report for students? We no longer get number corrected and attempted. You get the number answered. They're looking at, and this is in the future, I can't tell you how far because my crystal ball doesn't see that far, but they are looking at expanding upon the second section of the report where it tells you like reading whatever and reading for answers. They're going to tell you how many you got wrong on each of the sub skills or how many they got correct. Is it okay to post test on level E even if they're on lower end at pre-test? Yes. If they're on the low end of any test, when you post test, you should stay on that same test. You shouldn't move up a level until they're at the high end of that test. And yes, Christine, that's what you're talking about. You got to have level D to GED. So you can leave them on M4 to GED test. No, you may not leave them on M4. They have to be at M5 before they can go into GED. A student may take the test anytime they want, but they cannot go into GED prep until they're in NRS level 5. Are any youth programs using the old 910 who are doing GED prep? Not that I'm aware of. Everybody that is reporting to the state has to be using 11 and 12. 9 and 10 expired for FDOE on 12/31. It will be out of the system completely on June the 30th. They will not even be supporting it anymore because the NRS level, the NRS approval ends at that time. It seems to be long for a youth to complete the locator test and possibly taking the new TABE and then maybe MRD. That's up to your program, how you set it up for what test they take. Can you print this information? DRC will have to answer that. I am not sure if you can print it or not. If you email me, I can send you a copy of the PowerPoint. NPR Score Boost Series is very closely aligned to new tests. I don't know what NRP is. I think maybe that's supposed to be NRS. Only using M and D, you should have all levels if you're giving the test, because what if the student moves up? If a student was enrolled in AAAE based on TABE 9-10 scores, but their initial TABE 11 put them in the ABE range, do we move their arrangement? No, you cannot move them back a level. If they were not already enrolled in ABE and the new test puts them there, you could do that for reporting and gain purposes, but the student might not like it too well. If a student takes the locator and it indicates an A level, can you test the student on D level for their initial test? Melissa, the locator test is a recommendation. So if that student was at the very bottom of the A level locator and they've been out of school for a long time, you may consider giving them the D, but you might also realize that they could test with A plus and not get into the GED level at all. They're not going to get into GED. Yeah, with the D level they could, but that's a risk that you take. Okay, they could test lower. Oh, new readers press. Go back up to that question now that we know what in. Sorry about that. New readers press score boost series is very closely aligned. Lots of practice. Good to know that, Deborah. I know that they were trying to get it pretty aligned with it. Thanks for letting us know that. Questions? Cynthia, Jane, some enrolled students were placed into their current courses based on 9-10 scores. If their new EFL TABE 11 score is lower and the 9-10 score becomes 2 years old, where is the student placed? Well, if you wouldn't be keeping 2 years for adult ed, you'd only be looking at 1 year. They were placed in their current courses for 9-10. Their EFL TABE is lower. You do not move them back. They stay in the score they were placed in with 9 and 10 until they can post-test out with the new 11 and 12. Okay, so the score boost is being developed. Okay, thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Gina, for letting me know what New Readers Press was. Is DRC looking at the disconnect between TABE's level 3-4 then subsequent passing of the GED exam? We're having many students who are passing GED exam even though their TABE scores indicate they're not ready. We're aware of this. I don't know if DRC is looking at that or not. I asked them about that because GED prep is not required for students to take the GED. I don't know if they're going to be looking at that closely. It may be something that we need to look at here at the state, looking at a lower scale score to go into GED prep. But that's something you guys will have to talk to reporting about. Right now, we have to go by the NRS levels, and until they lower them, there's not much more we can do about it. EFM. By any chance, do you know and can find out when will the PERT be in EFM?
Could you please define EFM? We're not familiar with that acronym.
Thank you. So can a student on the M level, but NRS level 5, they can't be on the M level test in NRS level 5. It doesn't go that high. The M level of the test ends at level 4. So they may not go into GED on the M level of the test. Now, GED only requires one area, right, to be at the 9th grade, so or NRS level 5. But they cannot go into NRS level 5 with the M level of the test. Please look at the NRS scale score levels. Because the locator is recommendation, it's not riskier for the student to take the A level. The locator is not a recommendation for adult ed. The state of Florida is requiring the locator for all adult ed initial tests. And yes, it would be riskier for a student to take the A level because they could end up being, they could earn a scale score that puts them in the GED. I don't know why that's riskier. That's good for the student, riskier for you because you don't get the literacy completion point. Maxine, where can we find an interpretation of the test results box that would be number of points total obtained? That's in the very top. Where would you find that? There's an explanation for that in Maxine, send me your email and I'll get it to me. Send me your contact. Okay, and I will get that for you. I know I found it. I think it's in the instructional manual, but I'm not sure. So if you send me your contact information, I'll get it to you. We discussed this at the last farm worker eligibility meeting. What did we discuss? Go back. I'm sorry. Oh, that's your EFM. Employee Florida Marketplace. PERT. It should be. PERT should be in the Employee Florida Marketplace. It's been an approved test for about 10 years now. I don't know. I don't know. Yes, and Deborah, I know you're losing the disconnect. You're losing students because of the disconnect. I'm aware of that. I don't know what else to tell you. And math level M538. Oh, what about ranges of locator? The locator gives you a matrix that tells you if they get a certain number correct, this is the level of test. And like I said, it is a recommendation. You can use other factors, educational factors that you know about the student for a placement. So you could place them higher or lower on that locator based upon that. So yes, they are a recommendation, suggested. They're a recommendation. They say you can use your knowledge to place a student otherwise. Okay, let's see. Thank you, Maxine. I need to get that copy down. Go back here to our slides. Click over here. Over here. Okay, now go back to her question. You had a D level, M level test. Where is it? M4, level M math, 438. 538, I'm sorry, is level 4. That's right. I was asked about putting M into level 5, and you can't do that. M only goes to 595, and that ends on level 4. Is the GED ready? Are you asking if the GED is this GED? Oh, I see you, Christine. Is it GED ready? No, they have to have at least a 596 on math to be GED ready. I brought the chart back up here. Yes, like I said, they are recommended. And that's the exact score that you have. It's not GED ready. What's the next one? I don't know. The PERT is, like I said, it's, you're using it for the farm workers. Could you please tell me exactly how many total questions there are in each subtest? Well, there's 40 questions in the reading. I think it's 40 in each. I'm really not sure at this moment. But some of the questions have 2 parts. So even though there's 40 questions, there might be 52 answers because the questions have more than one part. The student has to answer, if they answer part 1 correct and get part 2 wrong, they get partial credit. If they answer part 1 wrong, they don't get any credit. And it can be found in the test publisher manual. It can be found on the answer sheet up at the top. It tells you how many there are. EFL is educational functioning level, the defunct grade equivalent score on 910. We still have an EFL, I believe, on 11 and 12. EFL is the initial educational functioning level, or the IFL is, yeah, initial functioning level, and those are NRS terminologies. Okay. Yeah, you would have to re-TABE Christine on the D level in order to get them up there. A 538D. No, a 538 is not GED ready. In order to be in GED, they have to be at NRS level 5. Not NRS level 4, NRS level 5. So on reading, that would be a minimum of 576. On math, a minimum of 596. And on language, a minimum of 584. Okay? So I don't know where you're getting a 538 is GED ready. I don't know. Okay. Keep going. Okay, that clears it up. That's good. Okay, do we have any more questions? If not, we're going to call this over. I think we've answered all the questions. Make sure there's no more in the chat box. No, you may not TABE. Okay, Mr. Johnson, TABE 9 and 10 is approved by the NRS through June. They extended it from March till June. The state of Florida opted not to use 9-10 after December the 31st of 2018. Any scores you report after January the 1st, 2019 must be TABE 11 and 12 scores if you're reporting them to the state for funding. What scores qualify for GED testing without ready? It was 10.5. No. 9.0 into GED prep, when you put them into GED ready, is up to you, Miss Lee. I do believe that corrections does have a minimum, but that does not relate to the rest of the adult education in the state. So you'll have to ask your correctional folks what your minimum is. When will the presentation link be emailed? Oh, it's right here in this chat box. It can be downloaded right on IPDay. So it is right here. I don't think you can. Oh, it is sent to all panelists and attendees in your chat box. And thank you, Julie. Okay, back to the questions. Do we have any more of them? Okay, wait a minute. This is the chat still, right? Mm-hmm. And Christine, that might have been the score for the old test. So you might have had that 538 for the old test, but not for the new ones. The scores are totally different. Maxine, I don't know which one you need the email, but I'm going to email you with how to do, yeah, the number correct. I got it. I remember now. What qualifies for GED testing without ready? We talked about that. Can you place students in GED if their scores are D level for NRS levels? If they have the minimum 576 in reading, or 596 in math, or 584 in language, you can put them in there. Level 5. Yes, Brad. So experiencing decreased scores as compared to 9-10, is that common? Yes. This is a much more difficult test. It's written at a higher level. It's written on the college and career readiness standards. The 9-10 is a 14-year-old test. So yes, you should be expecting lower scores than you got on 9-10. Thank you. Okay, we're going to call it quits now. Thank you all very much.
Well, thank you, Jane and Lisa, so much. But before you all leave us today, you're going to see feedback that's going to come up on the screen. If you would just take a few minutes to answer these 3 short questions, we would appreciate your feedback, and let us know if there's any other questions that you have. We can forward them on to the Florida Department of Education. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to answer these. And while you are doing that, I just want to let you know that February 6th will be our next webinar. It's mathematics through the lens of the college and career readiness standards, so you won't want to miss that. Okay, well, until then, thank you again, Lisa and Jane, and thank you all for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.